We start? Okay. I'm Kenneth Lundin from Ericsson, and this is the traditional speak about our roadmap, what we are thinking, planning. I will show you something like this, how we interact with the community and try to improve that, the planned releases, and some details about the releases, and a long term what we are thinking after the nearest releases. So we can start with the community then. We are working together with the industrial Erlang user group to try to improve the community interwork. And one thing is the issue tracker, and now it's in place. I will talk more about it later. And we try to include a packet manager in OTP. It's one thing, and an open backlog, and that is not in place yet, but hope it will happen this year. When it then comes to the issue tracker, bugs.erlang.org, it's live since October last year, and it replaces the Erlang bugs mailing list for reporting bugs. The mailing list is still active, but it will be phased out someday. So we encourage you to report bugs in this issue tracker. We have got around 100 bug reports so far. And the one thing that's good, actually was good with the Erlang bugs mailing list, was that reported bugs was commented or solved by community users, not only by us. So we encourage you to comment on the issues in this issue tracker as well. So maybe we get the solutions from the users. I mean, we haven't promised to solve everything faster and better just because we have another type of issue tracker. But now we get some kind of law and order about the issues, so it's easier to track them, and we can reference to the issue when we have solved it in a new release, in the release notes. Another thing that we were working on is the packet manager, and we think that if a packet manager would be included or integrated in OTP, it would be easier for users to fetch other Erlang packages. And we think Rebar 3 is a good solution for this. So we intend to cooperate with the Rebar maintainers to develop that further and integrate it further into OTP. And Rebar 3 is also integrated with a Hex packet manager, which can host information about packages from both Elixir and Erlang. So the first step here is that we move Rebar 3 into the Erlang organization at GitHub, but still the same maintainers, a separate repo. And then coming steps then that we work on how to integrate it better with Erlang OTP and how to offer it to when you fetch Erlang OTP. And the third step is to actually use it inside Erlang OTP. When we divide Erlang OTP into several packages. Then we come to the planned releases. I mean, our strategy with releases is that we have about one major release per year, and we have 3 planned so-called correction packages, which mostly contain bug fixes, but some smaller functionality. And then we have emergency packages, which are released as needed. When some customer, probably Ericsson, is needing an emergency patch or it could be also some supported customer outside Ericsson, paying customer. But the open source community gets the patches in the same minute as they are released. And in the main branch in Git, at GitHub, we have the current major release and updates on that. And in the master branch, we have code for the upcoming next major. So you can see here that the coming releases, they are 18.3 next week. And then we have the next major in June. But an important date is the release candidate that we plan to release in May. And I encourage you to test this one as soon as possible and come back with feedback if something unexpected happens. I mean, the major releases, we allow us to be slightly incompatible in the major releases, but not in the correction package. Exceptions exist, but that's the general idea. If we have something major, new, or something slightly incompatible, we have to put it in the major release. So now then, some details about the next correction package, the 18.3, next week. It's mostly bug fixes, but some new things. For example, this new statistics in the Erlang statistics function. You can have, I think, 4 different new properties to ask about runnable and active processes and ports. We have a customer case where they needed this for as a basis for decisions about overload protection. You can see how the schedulers, what kind of jobs they have, and so on. If they are uneven load about schedulers and things. Then we have the next thing here, time warp. There was a lot of news about time presented here last year, I think. And time warp is where you allow the operating system to have jumps in time, and you can still handle it in Erlang. But it was somewhat incomplete in the implementation. So if you insert, you can run this Erlang system in 3 different modes regarding time warp, and then you also have to be able to use these when you get timestamps for tracing so that they will be accurate. This one, Heart. Heart is a monitoring program which monitors the Erlang VM if you activate it. And it sends a message to the Erlang VM, and a process inside will send back something. And if it doesn't get it back in time, it will think that the Erlang VM is dead, and it would kill it and restart it. Now there is a callback here where the Erlang user can do whatever checks he wants before returning to heart. So we can do some sanity checks. I mean, it has proven that it wasn't enough to just get this message back. It can actually be problems in the system anyway. Some hanging schedulers, for example. So there is actually the default test that's implemented as well, which checks that all schedulers are okay. Then we have a module called overload in the SASL application. We have decided to remove it, but first we have to deprecate it to follow our own rules. So we deprecate it now, and then we plan to remove it in the 19 release. Because as far as we know, no one is using this. And I don't think it works particularly well. So it's about cleaning up. And here's some statistics. I think we have got or merged in about 90 contributions since the last release here. And that's both for this and for the 19 release. So now we come to the 19 release. And as I said, we can have some potential incompatibilities in a major release. So we start with removing the test server, because that has never been documented as an official application. The modules needed from test server is moved into the common test application. We have something called a code path cache, which was intended to speed up the code loading at start. It has never been a success, and it is, as we know, not much used. So we have decided to take it away, because it makes the code more complex during code loading as well. So I think we can solve this, faster start and loading in other ways. So here we have something quite complicated to describe in a short slide, but it has to do with type. If you have, you notice this syntax, a record where you have a type declaration for dialyzer of the field, but you don't have any initializer or default value for this field. So today it is so that it's automatically inserted that undefined, which is the default value, is also allowed in this type declaration. But this prevents dialyzer to find all interesting bugs. So now this will not be automatically inserted. So if you want that, you have to do it yourself. So if you have code today, you might experience that you get more warnings from dialyzer if you don't change this in certain places. Okay, then we have the SSL application with support for TLS. It's a continuous work in the security business that you have to remove things that are considered being insecure. So this is one of these cases, that we remove DES from the default cipher suits. You can still turn it on, but you have to do it. You have to have it in the option list so that you want it. But this might result in that you fail to connect with certain servers or clients that you could work with before. Random will now be deprecated, and there is already a RAND module which has better random values. And this means that it will not be removed here, but it's intended to be removed, this random, in release number 20. Okay, now some more interesting new features, perhaps. Preprocessor macros for finding out in which function you are. I know that some systems has a parse transform for this. That's not necessary anymore. Okay, we are working on a new state machine behavior, superseding the Gen FSM, which is not really that high-tech. This is we have submitted this as a pull request, so there has been a lot of discussions about this one. But we think we can release it in 19. We have the Amnesia X. It's a plug-in architecture where you can plug in external storage solutions to Amnesia. I think Ulf here has worked with that, and Klarna has worked with that.
Everyone has worked on it.
And it will also be, I think, Level DB plugin for this, released as open source soon. Crypto. We have changed crypto to use the EVP APIs of OpenSSL, and that will give you more speed when it comes to encryption, with and without hardware acceleration. But it can take advantage of hardware acceleration, but that depends on OpenSSL and how that is built. And I think it works from OpenSSL 1.0.1 or something like that. And then we have some crypto algorithm support. Okay. Here we have other things. We have open port. It's where you execute external programs from Erlang, from inside Erlang. Very common in e-scripts, I suppose. This is now made 3 to 5 times faster, and we have got rid of the. Previously we had to do a V fork or a fork inside the Erlang VM to be able to do this, and it could potentially be unsafe if the program to be executed was in an NFS file system. It could hang the whole VM. It could also have problems with memory consumption during this thing. So now we have a separate program which is doing the forks for us. So we communicate with a separate program. And this is also impact on the OS command, which uses the open port spawn. So it will also be faster. And it will be more scalable over several schedulers. Tracing. We have done a lot about tracing. You will be able to have match specs on messages. So you can, for example, use it to filter so that you're only tracing on external messages from an Erlang node. It will also be more scalable over many cores. And Lucas will have a speech about this, all the details about this in last speech in today, I think. Dirty schedulers has been around for a while, but we have not. It's regarded experimental, but we are working on it now and intend to make it robust and less experimental. I don't promise that we take away all of the experimental, but the intention is that the experimental in that case is just that we are not 100% sure about the APIs. But it should be robust. This one, configurable message queue handling per process. It is intended to solve problems where if an Erlang process get a huge or large message queue, it can get into trouble. For example, the garbage collection can be very slow and have a huge amount of data to work on all the time. So now it's possible to configure this so that the messages, they are not being included into the heap during garbage collection. They stay outside until they are received. And you configure this with an option to the spawn function or as a process flag inside the process. The last thing here, we have implemented 4 new functions where large list of modules can be used as input, so you can load them super fast, all these modules. Previously it was 1 module at a time, and it was a synchronization point in the Erlang VM after each. So now we take that synchronization after a whole bunch of modules instead. Some other optimizations in the SSH application. We have the optimized binary split, sharing, preserving, copying in internal messages and exit signals. We have tested this on an Ericsson product. It didn't have any impact. And I think it is because, having these shared data structures in an Erlang term, I think it's more common for tools than a telecom system. The telecom system usually don't have that large Erlang terms that it's sending, and not so complicated. The OS perf counter is a new function. It gives access to the Linux perf counters, for example, or similar, efficient ways of finding various things. The garbage collection info is a new information you can get from process info. It can be used to find out how much garbage you are creating in a function. For example, if you take this info before and after execution of a function. You can already today get this same information from the tracing of garbage collection, but I mean this is easier to use if you want to find out what's happening in your function or because of your function. And then the future long-term things. We are working on JIT, just-in-time compilation. You can see it as a research project. It's not for sure that it will be a product or when. But it's based on LLVM, and we are currently struggling with problems of LLVM, actually. Distribution. We get more and more requirements on having many nodes together, like 100. I mean, if we can handle 100, we can handle more as well, but that's a limit that has been mentioned. I don't think we are going for many thousands. I don't think that's necessary, but and also heterogeneous, different protocols to different nodes. We are working with a distributed hash table as an alternative to global or as a general purpose thing. We are thinking of splitting OTP into several repositories. We just got the rebar repository inside, but okay, that's the first step in that direction. DTLS is something we are working on, and we have cooperation with users about that. We have contributions in that area. Build support. I think mainly this is about how you build the Erlang VM itself and how you handle cross compilation and things like that. Documentation. It's about how to make it more fancy, look and feel wise and so. And I think we have cooperation with users about that too. Virtualization is about, I mean, there must not be any hindrance for using Erlang in containers and cloud applications and things like that. I don't have any concrete examples of what we need to do, but we find out. We have already done things regarding this because some system calls are really expensive in a virtualized environment compared to native. For example, regarding time. So we addressed that in the previous release. Okay, that was all for me, and I forgot to mention that you can also listen about all the details about Rebar 3 today by Tristan Slaughter. And it was a new release, I think, yesterday or so. Any questions? Or you can ask me outside.